Bendiciones, what up? It's El Conquistador back with another video. Yes, I know this is shitty lighting. Yes, I know that it looks like I'm filming this with a 1990s camcorder. I'm just a dude with a phone, and I know I'm looking straggly, and I'm just a guy with his computer and a phone, so hopefully you enjoy this video. So I want to go over what is Orikí. And in other videos, I want to go over, okay, what is Orikí, what is Tuyere, what is Orisha, what is Eseifa, what is Adura, what is Buya. So I'm going to talk about Orikí. And I have my computer here. Okay. So it's so much information that I had to type everything out. Orikí is a praise poem, okay? Words of praise, Orikí is words of praise, of flattery, used to incentivize the Ashe, / presence of any given Orisha. Orikí is recited whenever we cast Obi. Orikí is recited over a person's head for Ebori Eleda, i.e. head rogations. Everybody knows rogación de la cabeza. Orikí is recited for major ceremonies like the river ceremony, like a full cariocha, like when dealing with Ewe Osain, which is plants of Osain, plants are called Ewe. Orikí is recited for divination, whether it's Ifa, whether it's Dilogun, whether it's Obi, the 4 pieces of coconut, or just to give general praise to the Orisha when we salute. I know that I try to make it a habit whenever I prostrate to my Orisha, I try to recite Orikí. And we will hear words of praise to the Orisha being consulted or acknowledged in any given point in the ritual taking place, whatever ritual, the ones that I just named off. So we'll hear words of praise. I want to get into this. So there is a misunderstanding that Orisha is just hanging around 24/7. That you got your warriors behind your door, you got your santos somewhere, or lokun, they're just around 24/7. There's a misunderstanding that Orisha is just hanging around 24/7. Just because you have your warriors doesn't mean that they are currently present. And just because I am crowned Obatala does not mean that Obatala is present in this moment right now while I'm recording this video, because that's simply not the case. Orisha reside in Orun. Orun is the heavens. Now, there's debatable, is heaven the heavens and the sky? Is Orun really the earth? Yada, yada, yada. Orisha reside in Orun, whether up or down. Orun. Orun is usually translated as the heavens. But the physical, okay, so Orisha reside in Orun. Orun is the heavens. But the physical representations of Orisha, which we receive, are the body of the Orisha and the physical vessel of the Orisha to come when we call that Ashe to earth from Orun. Let me get an example right here. Boom. Okay. So I have my Echu. Boom. Echu B. Areas. Iba Echu. So this is a physical representation of Echu B. Okay? This is physically fast stuff. So Echu Elegbara resides in the heavens. But this is a physical representation of the Orisha. And this is the body of the Orisha. This is the physical vessel of Echu Elegbara, of Echu B, to come when I call his Ache to earth from Orun. But just because I have Elegua received does not mean that the Ashe of Elegua, because everything in this universe is Ashe, I'm Ashe, you're Ashe, and Ashe is what animates this whole world. The Chinese call it Chi, the Japanese call it Ki. I think the Hindus call it prana. That universal energy, Ashe. So this is just a physical representation. It does not mean that I'm holding a physical representation of Echu Elegbara, Echu B. But it does not mean that Echu B is present with me right now while I'm making this video. It's just a physical representation. No disrespect, So let me find my spot. Whenever you want to have Orisha present, you need to call. Let me put them away. You need to call. You need to call on that Ashe of that particular Orisha which resides in the heavens to be present in that moment onto earth, onto Aye. That's earth, Aye. For this reason, we need to call on the Orisha with Orikí to flatter them with praise poems, and also among other physical things, liquids like rum, like palm oil, with smoke of cigar, with their instrument. In this case, if it was elegua, use most people use maraca, others use a noisemaker. We call on the invisible ashe that is Orisha with these physical things to call the invisible ashe of the Orisha onto earth, onto Aye. Continuing on, I hope that made sense. In Nigeria, Orikí is very long, very complex, and is actually sung, and it has a lead and a chorus. So just look up on YouTube Orikí, Obatala, Orikí, Olodumare, Orikí, Ogun, and it's beautiful. And a lot of times, at least from my experience when I look it up on YouTube, there will be English subtitles, and it's just beautiful poetry, and they just go on. Some of them shits go on for like, I say that with all due respect, none of this is shit. Some of them go on for like 20 minutes and just recite stanza after stanza of just praise. Oh, go on, the one who bathes in blood and he saves the town from the enemies, yada yada yada, and they just go off the Nigerian style, the Sheshelagba style. In Cuban Santeria, in Cuban Ocha, Orikí is not sung, but instead is basically, I'm wording this, it's spoken word poetry, spoken by a single person who is conducting the ritual while everybody else remains silent and listens. Most people, I'm generalizing here, most people outside of your Obauriates, outside of your elder babalao, do not know how to recite Orikí. And yes, I will be reciting Orikí so you can hear what I'm talking about. Or if they do, if that santero happens to know Orikí, they know just a few words, just enough to get a heterogation done for a person, and leave the rest up to the Obauriates jurisdiction. But in the old days, all santeros knew Orikí because they were considered so important, unlike today. And when I say the old days, I mean like the 1950s back. Little by little, people have become extremely codependent on our oriates to memorize all the quote-unquote like hard stuff like the language, the history, the Orikí, the Orisha, the cantos, the memorization of herbs and the qualities and the use of these herbs, conducting every ceremony. And it's become more prevalent than ever now in the past like 15 or so-ish years, give or take, that so many santeros have been abandoned by their godparents or had fallings out of some sort with their elders and their yubona, and they have nobody and don't learn anything. And this feeds into the perpetuating of ignorant santeros, birthing ignorant santeros, and only oriates know the secrets. But Orikí is no secret. It is just a lot of memorization of the language of Lukumi. Even so, I'm willing to bet that even santeros made in the 1970s USA don't have Orikí memorized, and you can't teach what you don't know, or just memorize, maybe a lot of people just memorize just enough Orikí to Obatala to roll get ahead and nothing more. I have met santeros that have been made for 20 plus years, and they don't know Orikí. They know, they could be like knowledgeable, but literally like they know just enough Orikí. I don't think there's enough emphasis on Orikí in the religion as a whole, in Santeria today as a whole. Continuing on, so Cuban Ocha Orikís. I'm not going to speak on any Ifa Orikís. I'm not familiar with them. I know they're different, but Cuban Orikís for most santeros are very, very short. Example, what you will usually hear if an oriki is even recited over a person's head during a rogation or just in general, casting obi to obatala, let's say for obatala. The common one, hekwa obatala, obataisa, obatayano, obiririgua, aligualano. That's it. That's it. And a lot of times you're going to hear hekwa obatala, obataisa, obatayano, obiririgua, aligualano. That's it. That's it. And they move on to whatever it is they're doing. So most people don't memorize the long versions, which would be hekwa obatala, obataisa, obatayano, obiririgua, aligualano, akatioke. Ay Dios, I had it. Ay Dios. Hekwa obatala, obataisa, obatayano, obiririgua, aligualano, akatioke. Shit. Now I have to pause the video and check my notes. Hold on. Okay, I got it. Oluami, okuni aye, aterere kaye ala morere ki sheyo elegin gangan orisha loshe, tiko fia bobo, eni soju, eni shemu, adani botiri eniramiwa, oba ibo ala sheto irumole, oba lana elebo, alaba la she ibike ye olodomare, ori ima, akati oke, hekwa baba. And you can keep going. De la raboru, de la raboya, de la rabochiche. But it's long, and part of me, I'm still learning to memorize it. I personally took it upon myself. I said, if I'm gonna start learning these oriki, let me learn my feet and my head. If I had to pick one, I would pick Elegua because most people are consulting Elegua anyway. But you heard the difference from hekwa batalao, bataisa, batayano, biriligua. That's it. And then the long version. Most people do not memorize the long version because unless you grew up eating, breathing, and sleeping Orisha religion, it really is a lot to memorize. But no different than people that can successfully sing along at tambores but can't recite a proper moyuba or a single oriki and have to rely on somebody else to cast obi to their own Orisha. These orikis, it just takes time and repetition and consistency. As you can see, it's not something I try to hide. Like, some days are better than others of me memorizing, of just being able to recite off the top of my head. So, I messed up and I had to pause the video and then, okay, so the word is oluami. Okay, check. Go. I'm still learning. Continuing on. So like I mentioned, Oriki used to be considered something that all santeros needed to know, not just Oriates. It's not like the exclusive jurisdiction of an Oriate. Oriki is just to call your Orisha. That's it. And Oriki was important for many rituals, but have been excluded. For example, for the river ceremony, which I can't get into details with, but I will say that at least 21 Oriki praise poems for 21 different Orisha in their correct order were recited during that ceremony, during that portion of, we all know there's a river ceremony at some point in the 7 days. I can't get into details, but we know a river ceremony exists, and 21 Oriki to 21 Orisha is what was recited at some point. This is something that I personally haven't seen. Why? Because most people don't know a single Oriki. So how the hell are you going to get 21 and pray 21 Oriki when most people know just a little bit of Obatalawan? So this shit faded into obscurity. Let's see. Also, during a head rogation, Oriki for more than just Obatala was prayed over the person's head. Most people, when they give a rogation, next time you see a rogation, check it out. Observe. If they even say an Oriki, a praise poem, over the person's head, they say, Hekwa batala o bataisa o batayano biriligua ligualano. That's it. Maybe they add baba akatioke or akatioke at the end. That's it. A knowledgeable babalao will recite all 16 meis over a person's head when they conduct a head rogation. A knowledgeable one. Let's see. I know that the Obaoriate David Alagayu, regardless of what you think about the man, because I know he's full of controversy. When I ask people what the hell they think, I get ups and downs all about that man. I know he recites Orikí for all 16 singular odu over the person's head during a rogation. So Orikí is not just for Orisha, but also to call the odu, which is what the Babalaos do, the 16 maize. And in this case, David Agayu, he recites Orikí for the 16 singular odu over a person's head. So I don't want to get too off track because this is going to be a stupid long video anyway, and I'm not going to do no editing. This is what you're going to get. It's raw, unfiltered. This is it. But Odu is considered living Ashe energy as well. So that is also something in which the Babalaos, they call into the person's head. They pray the 16 maize. They, Okana mei, Owuna mei, yada yada mei. And in this case, David Agayu, he recites the 16 singular Odus from Okana all the way to Erindilogun. Because Odu is living energy. The Orisha are living energy. So Orikí is also something you praise the Odu to give guidance to the person, yada yada yada. For the presence to be present, the Ashe of that Odu, of that Orisha to be present. Okay, so continuing on. So David Agayu recites the Orikí for 16 singular Odus, but originally, at least for Ocha-centric houses, what was recited over the person's head was Orikí to Orisha. Not all 21, but Elegua Oguno Chosi and Obatala if the person had their warriors, or if the person had their warriors. And Obatala is included in there because Obatala is the owner of the Ebori Eleda, the owner of the head rogation. But to call in all the Orisha, all 21 Orisha, and recite Orikí to all of them, and include Orikí to Olodomare, Orikí to the moon, Orikí, praise poems to the Irumole, and then go on to sing the songs to the corresponding songs to Ori, like they do in Brazil. We sing songs to Ajala, the molder of Ori, and calling on all these asheses, all these energies to be present and bless and appease this head is perfectly acceptable too. But it's simply so much to memorize, and people preoccupy themselves. And I'd say it's so much to memorize because I'm in the process of attempting to memorize all this stuff by the end of the year. Like 21 Orikí. I'm trying to learn mad stuff right now. Mad Lukumi. But it's simply, all that is acceptable to do all that. But it's simply so much to memorize. And people, honestly, Santeros today, and people in general today, whether you got your warriors or not, your Orisha, whatever, preoccupy themselves with the more common aspects of ritual. Like the memorization of the when it comes to animal sacrifice, the corresponding suires, yakinya, loro, yada, yada, yada. More people preoccupy themselves with the animal sacrifice stuff. And of course, the music for the tambores at celebrations. People memorize the hell out of the songs to the Orisha for tambores, and people love that stuff. That's cool, and they sing along. That's fine, and they memorize. Okay, what do you say when you're sacrificing an animal? The common animals, things like that, and that's perfectly fine. But it's just to memorize the Orikí for all the Orisha and all that stuff. It is a lot of work. So I can see why people rather just memorize tambores for celebrations as opposed to Orikí. It's just, there's more tambores and animal sacrifice going on than head rogations. And so the opportunity to hear Orikí, the opportunity to hear what should, at least what should, not what is, because most people don't recite Orikí anyway. The opportunity to hear what should be recited over a person's head or before throwing obi it's just not as common as just going to a tambor. There's a tambor every damn weekend. Somewhere in New York, there's a tambor going on. Side note, since I'm on the topic of head rogations, this video is not about head rogations, but I wanted to say this. When it comes to head rogations, we are appeasing Ori, we are placating Ori, yes, but by appealing to the Ashe that is Orisha, that resides in Orun, which is why we recite Orikí over the person's head. We are asking the blessing of Obatala, the blessing of Ayala who molded Ori, to appease this head, to appease the person's Ori who is ever sitting down, and give clarity to that Ori, give clarity to that head. And then we could get into singing to Ayala, singing the countless songs that exist for Ori. There are songs to sing to Ori during a head rogation. There are Orikí to recite to a person's Ori during a head rogation. There are songs to Ayala, the molder of Ori, to sing. There's, most head rogations take place at night and then the person goes to bed, but people aren't reciting the Orikí to the moon or Chukwa. All that can be done and it can get really, really deep. But it's just a lot to memorize, and simply people just they learn the basics of how to do things and that's it. But it can get deeper if you want, But head rogation is a separate topic that I want to touch on in the future at some point. Let me know if that's something you're interested in, because too many people today take the idea of a rogation, in my opinion, too lightly, and approach other people's oris for rogations without reverence, or a person doesn't treat their own ori with reverence. Pero, ori apere, ori alafia. Ori is important. Okay, continuing on, back to ori. So these are very, very difficult things to learn. These oriki, the language, is very difficult to learn, but I want to encourage anyone and everyone who has Orisha received, whether you are crowned Orisha like me, whether you have your warriors, whether you have just one Adimo Orisha, maybe you got just a locum. Well, it would be good for you to learn the Oriki for that one locum that you have. It is good for you to ask your godparent for the appropriate Oriki, the praise poems, to call on your own Orisha when you pray to your Orisha. Many people just have their warriors. That's a-okay. A lot of people have their Mano de Oruna and they have the warriors. A lot of people maybe have just one Orisha. They needed Olokun for stability. So, but we're talking specifically about the warriors. Maybe many people just have their warriors and faithfully apply palm oil and rum and smoke every Monday to their elegua, their echu, and yet never recite a single oriki to call on their elegua, to call on their echuifa. To call elegua down from Orun, to actually hear your prayers and bring them back up to the ears of Olodumare. People don't do that. People are not taught this. Let's see. So you may ask, what about the Omi Tutu? Omi Tutu, Ona Tutu, Ache Tutu, Ile Tutu, Tutu Laroye, Tutu Lana Emi, Tutu Laroba, Tutu Ile Ogere, Tutu Ori, Tutu Ariku Babawa, Orisha, Orun, Mogui Soro Emi. And it can go on and on. That little Omitutu prayer is just a libation of respect to Elegua, to open with them when we say Tutu Laroye. The one the talkative one who's going to, we ask Laroye to not twist our prayers, to not twist what we're saying and say, oh, Elegua, I need, I'm asking for, I need you to help me with my anger and impatience. And then Laroye can go back up to the ears of Olodumare and say, yo, so-and-so asked you to make sure that he's just stuck in traffic all the time and make sure that people are always confrontational with him. And so you're going to be like, yo, what the hell? Elegua, I asked you to ask for patience and help me with my anger. And he said, well, yeah, but you say you wanted help with your anger, so I had to give you opportunities to get angry. So then you can exhibit that yourself and be patient, So we're asking Laroye to not twist our words. So we just appease Laroye. Tutu Laroye. Fresh. Laroye is refreshed. But that's like putting out the red carpet for Elegua and not actually inviting him to come and join you and be present. So think of it like as, this is just me. No one's gave this analogy, but for me, the omitutu that you give, omitutu, ona tutu, ache tutu, ile tutu, tutu, laroye, tutu, ariku, babawa. That's the basic one that everybody learns. That's like the pulling out the red carpet. And everything begins with water, with omitutu, but that's just a general acknowledgement. Now you got to use the smoke, the rum, the palm oil, the candy, the noisemaker, the oriki, the praise poems, the songs, to invite Elegua into your space from Orun. Sometimes you cast Obi to Elegua. Let's just use this as an example. Elegua, because he's the most common santo. Everybody's always casting Obi to Elegua, divination with Elegua, yada yada yada. Sometimes you cast Obi to Elegua and the coconut's open with a no, Okana. Not Oyekun, but Okana, because Oyekun is a whole different thing. Okana, which is a no. It's not a bad omen like Oyekun. Obi, among other things, of course, may be saying that Elegua is not present, and you must continue to sing, to recite maybe even more praise Oriki, to give more rum, more cigar, etc., to call Elegua down from Orun, to pull that Ashe down from Orun and be present, to be consulted, to pull, because Orisha is Ashe. And so we have Oriki to pull and call that Ashe, the energy that we call as a collective, Echu Elegbara, down from Orun and be present at this moment when we are casting Obi and we say, Elegua, are you ready to be consulted? That's the first thing when it comes to Obi. You don't just go into asking questions. You have to ask, Elegua, are you present? Yes or no? And if the answer is, oh, okay, Okana, no. Oh, I guess we gotta keep calling. You don't cast again. You just recite Oriki and give more rum and this and that until you get an affirmative answer, an alafia, neife, itaguame, yada yada yada. But the point is, understand that Oriki is super duper important because it is the flattery to the Orisha. And to neglect that, things still get done. Most people don't recite Oriki. Most people don't even know what Oriki is. But it is definitely an integral part of learning how to connect with your own santos. Another important thing that I neglected to point out is Oriki isn't just praise just to flatter the santo. If you study Oriki, you learn about the santo, him or herself. Meaning, if I'm reciting an Oriki to Oba, there's an Oriki for Oba, and at one point you say, Ani suru ayiye wure. Tirin loganjo kwelu awonaje. Anisuro ayiye wure. The patient one who eats she-goat early in the morning. Tirin loganjo kwelu awonaje. She who walks or runs with witches in the middle of the night. So it's not just, oh wow, that sounds cool and that's pretty for Oba Nani. Okay, so what does that tell you about Oba herself? What information do you gather from that? Okay, so Oba is a patient Orisha. She's not like Ogun, who can be more impulsive, who can be more like, Ogun Dan and patient. Oba is patient. Chango is impatient. Oba is patient. That's what that little Anisuru, patience. Oba's patient. Anisuru ayiye ure. Patient one who eats she-goat early in the morning. What does that tell me about Oba? It tells me she's patient. She's an early bird. And she eats she-goat. Of course, that's a lineage thing as well. Some give he-goat or whatever. But mine, my lineage, she-goat. But it says it right there in the Oriki. Continuing on. She who walks or runs, I have to get, it's either walks or runs, who dwells with witches in the middle of the night. What does that tell us about Oba? She's a witch. She roams with witches. So even though she's an early bird and she enjoys her goat, I guess early in the morning, she's a witch. She's part of the Aje. She's part of the Iamis. She dwells in the dark. She is not afraid of the dark. She revels in it. She is comfortable in the dark. She's comfortable in the night. She's comfortable with the witches. She is a bruja. So much so, because we think of Yemaya, we think of Ochun. A lot of people say Ibukole is the queen of the witches. I've also heard that it's actually Yemaya who's the queen of the witches. But in the Orikí to Ochun and Yemaya, nowhere, not even for Nanaburuku, who's considered another witch, not even for Nanaburuku, who's another dark santa, doesn't mention in their Orikí anything it has to do about witchcraft. But Oba, and ni tampoco Yegua, not even for Yegua, but for Oba Nani. That's such an important aspect of her, I guess, that it's even included in her praise poem, in her Orikí, that she is so much of a witch that it has to be mentioned. And we always think about Ochun and Yemayan and Aboruku being witches, but nowhere is it mentioned in their Orikí, at least the one that I have, that they're witches. And it's, people, it's Ochun is a witch, don't mess with her children, they're witches, witches, witches. But the only one that I can find that has any reference to witches or witchcraft or the Aje is Oba. So that teaches you what about Oba. Okay, so she's an early bird, she's patient, she eats she-goat, she dwells in the night, she dwells in the middle of the night between 12 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the morning, hanging out with the witches, haciendo brujería, yo no sé, but she's with the Aje. So it educates you. The Orikí is not just to call on the santos, but academically, intellectually, from my own knowledge, when you get the translations, it educates you about the nature of the Orisha. Okay? So if you're looking, because I know everybody's going to ask me, yo, what about, how do I learn the Orikí? The ones that I've learned are from a book from Willie Ramos, Obauriate, Dr. Miguel Willie Ramos, Ilario Ba. Very respected elder in the community. And in this book, it's called Obiagbon, Lukumi Divination with Coconut. And it's all in English, so, because I'm not fluent in Spanish. And it has a lot of Orikí in the back of the book. Let me see. Olokun, Obatala. They're not in the order in which it should be, because there is a specific order in which Orikí are. There's like a specific order in which Orisha should be acknowledged. But if you're just praying to Oba, for example, you don't have to go down the list and wait until you get to her. No, you just go straight to her. But let me just see. Oba Anisuru. Yeah, Oba, patient one who eats she-goat early in the morning and walks the earth with witches in the middle of the night. Okay, well, that just told me a lot about Oba. So this is a wonderful, wonderful book. I'm not going to make videos where I go over each Orikí and I'm reciting it and all that, because I don't want to take away from this man's hard work of just revealing what's in the book. If you want it, you got to show your support and purchase his book and his product. Because I know what it's like, because I'm an author as well, insofar as I have books typed out of songs for the Orisha. So I have to be mindful of how much music content I give out, because it's one of my means of income. Okay? So if you're interested in learning the Orikí, great. Speak to your godparent about this stuff. Show them the video. I know it's a stupid long video, but I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. And if you actually made it this far, thank you. Modupwe, which means I am grateful. A lot of people use it to say thank you. Thank you is eshe. Mine may be saying around eshe, eshe, E-S-E. Modupwe, I am grateful. So, peace out. Ki oloro nagbeo.